70.3 2025 Muncie. This one is taking place July 12th. If you do need any coaching, help, aid, assistance leading up to this one, or individual race analysis or guidelines for you, please reach out. Contact info is down below. July 12th, what you're going to get is on this race exactly what's rolling through the screen up here. High air temperatures are around 86, lows are about 63, average water temperature is about 68. You got a reservoir swim, a flat-ish bike, and then a rolling run out here. So let's dive into the main fixins out here. So Thursday the 10th. This is where things kick off on the race site. We have check-in from 2 to 7 available for you. Athlete briefings 3 and 5 p.m. Friday, July 11th, we have athlete check-in again, must check-in today. That is 9 to 4 p.m. We also have mandatory bike check-in and chip pickup rather. That is taking place 10 to 5 p.m. Athlete briefings 11 and 1 p.m. Saturday race day 4 a.m. Parking opens, transition opens 4:30, closes 6:15, with the race start promptly happening at 6:30 thereafter. We have mandatory bike checkout 1 to 4:30 with the award ceremony taking place 30 minutes earlier than is customary at 3:30. That is your list of events on race weekend. So let's dive into temperatures. Average high temperatures on race day 3 years ago was 84, 2 years ago was 88, and last year 86. So you can take to the bank that you are going to race in the 80s, whether that's low 80s or high 80s. Plan for a hot race. So you should start your heat acclimation probably now or in a couple of weeks here for success. Low temperatures 70, 73, and 63 last year. In my mind, those years where it's really low to really high, that places more stress on you and will make for faster bike times. That's just personal preference for me, though. Swim temperatures, the only temperatures they have on record are 79 degrees, which was last year. So you can also track the temperature ahead of time. But I don't know if I'd plan on bringing a wetsuit out here, but make sure you're just tracking it the days and the weeks leading up to it. So the swim course, so the maps are subject to change, but this is our swim course also. This is our swim course. So let's dive into what they have first, and then we'll go into the other map out here. Kicking off over here, if this is the swim start, in fact, this is going in a counterclockwise loop. This section over here is going to be a highly contested section. It's going to be fast. People are going to be going crazy. You know my motto, let them kind of roll out there, and I would kind of take that and just have them pull you along. In this case, however, I would actually fight for that corner if you are fighting for a slot out there on race day. Reason being, you're going to set yourself up for success during this straightaway out here. And what I would do on this straightaway, I mean, you establish yourself here, and here you let other people do the work over there. After you turn over here, this is where you start to pounce a little bit, and that carries onward for right here. And then once you get here, you don't quite shut it down, but you simply maintain what you got around the sighting or around the turn buoy over there. The only one you're keeping to the right. Now, if the course is reversed out here, if this is our course out here, this is our clockwise course out here, then things do change a little bit. In this section over here, this is probably a little bit more aggressive of a turn than what it actually is. It's probably just a slight little bend out there, and what that means on race day is this is actually pretty much a straight shot almost. This little turn buoy doesn't have so much of an impact as it looks on the map. Being that it is a straight shot, athletes are going to really overdo it on the way out. Make sure you're riding those coattails. Make sure you are taking the free ride. And once you get to about this area on race day, this is where you need to start to say, hey, can I realistically start to leapfrog this group yet? If the answer is definitely not, just keep hanging on and, make sure you are not blowing yourself up hanging on to that group over there. During this section, this is your jump point. This is where you need to start going to find different feet, jumping ahead, and just, really setting yourself up for success. This area on race day, this is the area where you are going to overdo it for sure. This is where you're just going to hang on to hopes and dreams if you are going a little too fast. So make sure during this section you are racing at your pace, not someone else's here. Unless you are getting pulled by a group of like 10 to 15 people, which is highly unlikely, ride those people, ride that wake. Going back into our transition area from this straightaway to this straightaway, this little bend out here is going to have a little bit more impact than you want. You're going to be going from swimming at a straight line to a slight right bend. That will throw you off slightly out here, but you can also use this as a point where you can start kicking your feet, getting ready for the T1 area out here. Speaking of T1, let's hop out onto our bike. This is our bike course. If we look at our map that they have provided to us, again, they classify this as not a hilly bike. I would have to agree. They have 780 feet of elevation on ours. We have about 1,300 feet listed here in our software out here. When we scroll down, we have, where is it? Elevation, we have about 870, 860 feet of elevation gain. So the truth is it's likely probably in between out here on race day. So when you do this course, you're going to head north out of the transition area up over here. And when you do make this main drag entrance over here, you're going all the way out to the turnaround over here. Turning back around, this little marker right here signifies that you do have to turn around again for a second loop, and then you do hit the turnaround one more time before you're falling straight away back into the transition zone. They say on their site that athletes usually light winds usually favor athletes on the return trip. When we ran the simulation through our stuff here, this is the weather that we got for us. That is a headwind or a cross headwind coming back on race day. And we're going to go through both scenarios really, really quickly out here on race day. So max elevation gain or max elevation gradient that we have comes at the, let's call it mile 54-ish, or maybe slightly afterwards on race day. So as a max grade of 2.6% out here, that means that this is a flat, this is an aero course. So aero is going to be a high priority out here. You can see, hopefully, that if I can get my mouse back, you can see hopefully that as we scroll over these hills out here on race day, most of them are under a 1% grade out here. We do have a couple of scenarios where it is a little bit more than that. Right here up to the transition area, or the turnaround zone out here. But for the most part, aero is going to be king or queen out here. Because of that, watch out for locking yourself into that time trial mode, that time trial stance on the bike. If you do that, if you lock yourself in, you're probably going to have run struggles at least earlier on before you can kind of get out and break that position back open. So don't be afraid to get out of the aero position every once in a while. Don't be afraid to kind of create those extra modalities and terrain simulations yourself by stomping on the pedals a couple of times and then getting back into the aero position. I've marked aid stations where they are about going to be, at least where they have marked them for us on race day. There is only 2 aid stations out here, but keep in mind you are going to be going out here and back, and you're going to be doing that one more time. So out here you do have 4 aid stations available to you. And if you think back to let's go back up here for a second. If you think back to the air temperature in the 80s, or hopefully not 90s, you're going to need it. And what athletes typically do out here is since they are seeing an extra aid station out here, they are just blowing by this, especially the first one. I would highly not recommend that. Main goal of the day is to kind of keep your core temperature down, set yourself up for the run where you don't really have a whole lot of shade options available to you. So be very careful about how you execute this bike. Just because it's not super technical out here doesn't mean that you can overdo it, and a lot of athletes do. So how are we going to attack this bike out here? So let's go back to our power plan. We're going to get rid of speed because we know it's going to be relatively high on a course like this. And how are we going to do that? So running this through our simulations, our intervals, or the bars that you have out here, and we'll take elevation away for a second. The bars out here, they were pretty low out here. What that means is you can sustain a target power for a longer duration than on most courses without interruption out here. And you can see that very, very well out here. If we bring back our arrow out here, you can see it goes up, and then there's kind of like during this section out here, it's up, it's down, it's kind of all around, and then we steadily raise it, and then we go back to this up and down section over here, and then we steadily rise all the way back in. So what does that mean with elevation? I'm going to bring back the blue lines out here, and hopefully you can see that once you get to that bottom turnaround, and I'll lower this for you a little bit out here. And the choppy portions that does happen by the far turnaround out there on race day, and coming away from that turnaround before we kind of settle back into our groove out here. That's just the up and the down nature of it. If we look at their course and we go down to the elevation profile that they have, it's very similar out here. The elevation ups and the downs aren't as extreme, which are probably more accurate in this case. You're probably not going to experience things like that out here. But you never know. In a couple places you might. But again, most of these are under 2% grade anyways, so they're not super consequential for the majority of us anyways. Aid stations, again, this one I would watch out for. It could come at a faster section, so this high rate of speed could cause you to lose bottles and miss a fueling opportunity or a cooling opportunity depending on how you execute this race. Going back to that power plan one more time here. Uh, Aero is super, super important. Talking about time analysis, drag, dropping your drag or improving your drag is a better way of saying that. Is going to net you about 27 seconds of savings. Also, this is an athlete that is projected to finish around that 2 hours and 35 minutes out here. So if you are projected to finish a little bit slower than that, that's going to have more of an impact on you. Power, if we do increase it by about 1%, we're saving 35 seconds. Even this athlete right here, weight dropping by 1%, you're saving 6% out here. That is likely, or 6 seconds, that's likely going to be a little bit more than what is projected out on this simulation out here. Rolling resistance, you're saving about 6 seconds out here over the course of the course when you do improve it slightly. So seeing that this is a faster course, what I would do is tighten up that aero position if it's not already maximized for you. I would definitely take a look at your tire choices, air pressure choices, and practice that in training right now if you can. I would also obviously try to increase your power. Everyone's already trying to do that anyways, but the real savings are going to come in the form of your aero position and your rolling resistance if you've already maxed out your power potential out here. Zones. Zones on race day, this is pretty straightforward for a lot of people. You're going to be in zone 3 for a lot of time. Zone 4 in a couple places, you're going to accumulate about 16 minutes of this if you are that 235 athlete on race day. Gradients out here, for the most part, you are going to be driving in that 0 to 2% gradient. 0 to negative 2%, you also have 47% there, whereas the 0 to 2%, you have 50% of your time spent there. 2 to 4%, you're only going to be here for 1.8% of your overall time, hopefully on race day. And going outside of that, there isn't a whole lot. So this is a pretty tight course out here on race day. And you can see that this athlete's speed, as we roll over here, this is typically what this athlete should expect on race day. And yeah, so that is our bike. So now moving on to our run. What does it look like this year? This is a single. We rotate all the way around, hitting the turnaround point, and we rotate all the way back. What does that look like on a map? Here we are. All of these are aid stations or projected aid stations. I am guessing here, I don't know if these two are going to be dual-sided. If they are, then we do get an additional aid station right here and right there. So that means that these two aid stations, I would ask if they are going to be double-sided. The reason I don't know if they are going to be double-sided is because it flips sides over here on the map. So anytime it does that, I would assume that that's only a single side. But I do not know 100%. So ask when you get there on race day or on the race weekend, so you can set yourself up for success. The reason I mention that is because if you do get gifted an extra aid station out here, that high 80s, mid 80s temperature becomes a little bit more manageable. You have another option to hit the ice. You have another option to dump water on your head to cool down, get electrolytes, get calories, get whatever you need on race day. Because of the bike, I'm going to say lack of difficulty, even though that's not true. Because of the difficulty level of the bike, a lot of athletes will find that they have overdone it. They've really put all their eggs in one basket. They smoked the bike, and it was great. It was awesome. They had a great bike split. Anytime you look at the results, you'll see a lot of fast times out there, and that's, it's because you're not climbing mountains or driving or biking in Muskogee. When you get on the run, things change a little bit. If you're not heat acclimated, you need to start because the heat will come really fast, really aggressive. And there's not a whole lot of shade. There's not a whole lot of hiding from it on race day. When you go back to over here, um, hopefully we can get a run shot over here, and you can see that. I mean, it's very similar roads that you bike on, right? You're out there. There's not a whole lot of shade. You're open to the elements. It is what it is. So if you're not used to that heat, that dry, or not that dry heat, but if you're not used to that heat and just that like convection oven feeling out there, you're going to really struggle out here on race day. Use the aid stations to your benefit out here. The first mile, mile and a half, you are rolling up here. You are slightly climbing the hill. This hill, I'm going to use that in quotations because we are only climbing about 450 feet over the course of this 13 miles. So this hill out here is it's going to be a little challenging. It's going to be a little difficult, not because of the terrain, but because of the heat combined with this and then the bike as well. So I would be very cautious with this hill. I wouldn't really use it as a springboard. I would use this as an opportunity to kind of just get over it and save your springboard for this section right through here and even beyond if we're being honest with each other. This section over here is a slight rolling uphill, which means that most athletes are going to be going slower and they're not going to really understand why. If you are one of those athletes, just don't, I would kind of associate this with like swimming. And not swimming against the current and not going the speed that you want. If that is you on the run right here during this section, I would not get overly worried about it. Everyone's going to be doing the same thing. The athletes that are really motoring out here on race day should be heat acclimated, should be having a good day, should be on nutrition, electrolytes, hydration, all that fun stuff. And if they're not, they're going to really pay the price later on out here. Happens every time. If you are not super confident in your effort, in your abilities during this stretch right here, don't be afraid to back it down a little bit. It's hot. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot out there, so be very, very careful out there on race day. We do drop down a little bit to the transition area over there, and there is a slight hill going up to the transition, or not the transition, the turnaround out here. This is going to be another huge check-in place for you. Check in with yourself and say, hey, am I realistically doing good out here? Am I slowing down? If I am slowing down, what is going on? Is my pace too high? Do I need to get electrolytes? Do I need to get calories? What do I need to fix? And then slowly start to fix it. It probably won't totally fix it by the time you finish, but you can hold off those cramps and things like that until you get later on into the race. And that's going to be the goal out here if you are starting to get in the hurt locker. The trick on this course is if things do start to go south, then actively trying to turn it around and realizing, yeah, it might not be your day, but you could still have a really good day out here and not totally bonk or totally cramp and have to walk for the last 8 miles or 6 miles, whenever that happens for you. So actively, be paying attention to you. This is going to be a run where I know everyone's going to be around, but you're going to have to do your best to tune a lot of people out, even if you are chasing the awards out there. If you're on your line and you realistically can't go any harder or faster out there on race day, that's it. That's it. That is what it is for you on race day that day, and that's okay. Just actively work that line, feather it a little bit and say, hey, maybe I'll try and go slightly faster out here. And if alarm bells start going off, drop that pace down and just slow down a little bit, go slightly under that line and say, okay, I'm going to hold this for a little bit. I'm going to actively fuel. I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to try to cool myself off, right? And then I'm going to try to go above that line again and just constantly just see, is this the limit? Nope. Is this the limit? Nope. And figure out where that is on race day. Another huge thing for you, the heat. Speaking of that, once you get really hot on race day, it's really hard to cool yourself off, and you probably have to walk and do things that you don't want to do on race day. So stay ahead of it. Stay ahead of the cooling strategies. I wish everyone the best of luck out here on race day 2025, Muncie 70.3. Good luck to everyone. If you need any coaching advice, assistance, race course analysis, please reach out. Contact is below. Like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. And good luck to everyone racing on the 2025 edition 70.3 Muncie.